In Python, have you ever printed one of your own objects and gotten back something like money object at 0A3F8? Or tried to add two of them with a plus sign and watched Python throw an error? The fix for all of that is a feature called dunder methods, sometimes called magic methods. They are what let your own classes work with print, with equals equals, with plus, with len, with sorting and indexing, exactly like Python's built-in types do. In this video, let's go over dunder methods, building up one single class as we go. So first, let's look at that name, dunder. So we just say dunder. I like it. It's a fun way to say double underscore. But these are methods wrapped in two underscores on each side, like init and repr. Now, every time you write a constructor, you're using a dunder method with that double underscore init. The key idea is that you almost never call these yourself. Python calls them for you behind the scenes whenever you use an operator or a built-in function. When you write len of x, Python quietly runs x dot double underscore len, dunder len. When you write a plus b, Python runs a dot double score under add, passing in b. So a dunder is your hook into Python's own syntax. Let's think about a simple money class. All it does right now is store a dollar amount in its constructor. So we can create a money of 5, ask for its dollars, and get 5 back. Normal. We're going to grow this one class throughout the whole video. We'll add a single dunder at a time. And the very first thing that goes wrong is something every beginner runs into. So let's say we make a money of 5 and we print it. Instead of anything useful, we get money object at some memory address. And just typing the variable in the REPL gives the same ugly thing. The reason is simple. Python has no idea how you want a money displayed. So it falls back to a default that shows the type and the location in memory, which is useless to you. We fix this with two dunders, repr and string. And the difference between them is important to understand. With repr, we add a double underscore repr method that returns an f string, money, open paren, the dollar amount, and close paren. Repr is meant to be the unambiguous representation aimed at developers and debugging. So a really good habit is to make repr look like the code you would type to recreate the object. So now when we look at our price in the REPL, we get money of 5. It's clear and it tells us exactly what the object is. Now for str string, we add double underscore string, str, returning a dollar sign followed by the amount. String is the readable friendly version. It's what end users see when you call print or str on the object. So now print of price gives us $5. One handy rule, if you only define one of the two, make it repr, repr, because Python will fall back to repr whenever string is missing. Simple way to remember the split is repr for developers, string is for people. So if we think about this as a quick side-by-side, since people get tripped up on this, repr is for developers. Its goal is to be unambiguous. It shows up in the REPL, R-E-P-L, and inside lists and dictionaries. And ideally, it looks like valid code. str is for end users. Its goal is to be readable. It is what print and str use, and if you do not define it, it quietly falls back to repr. So always define repr. Define string when you want a prettier face for users. So then the next problem, we compare a money of 5 to another money of 5, and Python says false. So why are two $5 amounts not equal? The reason is that by default, Python compares objects by identity. It asks, are these literally the same object in the same place in memory? And they are not. They are two separate objects that happen to hold the same value. So we don't want that. We want them compared by their dollar amount, by their value. And that is the job of double underscore EQ. So we add EQ. It takes self and other, where other is whatever is on the right-hand side of the equals equals, and we return whether their dollar amounts match. Now money of 5 equals money of 5 is true, and money of 5 equals money of 9 is false. Equality now means same value, which is almost always what you actually want, typically. It depends on what you're doing, of course. But defining EQ has a hidden side effect that catches a lot of people off guard. The gotcha. The moment you define EQ, Python removes the default hash method from your class. And without a hash, your object cannot go into a set, and it cannot be used as a dictionary key. So this innocent-looking line, putting a money in a set, now throws unhashable type. The fix is to add hash back. A safe version just hashes the same data you compare on, the dollar amount. The one rule you must follow, any two objects that are equal must produce the same hash. Since we compare on dollars, we hash on dollars. and that way we are consistent. Now next, we try to sort a list of two money objects, and Python errors out, saying less than is not supported between money instances. Sorting works by repeatedly comparing pairs with the less than operator. Python does not know how to order two money objects, so it gives up. We just need to teach it one comparison, double underscore it, and sorting springs to life. We add LT, less than, self.dollars less than other.dollars, and that's it. Now sorting a list of money of 9 and money of 5 gives us money of 5, then money of 9 in order. And something nice is just defining LT is enough for sorted, for min, and for max, because all three are built on top of less than, that hierarchy. Also notice the output is using the repr we wrote back at the start. The dunders compound on each other as we go. So if you want every comparison, there's a dunder for each one. LT for less than, LE for less than or equal, GT for greater than, GE for greater than or equal, EQ for equals, and NE for not equals. Writing all 6 by hand is tedious, so Python gives you a shortcut. Decorate your class with total ordering from functools. Define just EQ and LT, and Python fills in all the rest for you. 2 methods, full comparison support. Now operators. We add double underscore add. It takes self and other, sums their dollar amounts, and importantly returns a brand new money object. So money of 5 plus money of 3 gives us money of 8. Notice we return a money, not a bare number. That matters because returning the same type keeps things chainable. You can write a plus B plus C and it just works, since each addition hands back another money. This exact same pattern gives you subtraction, multiplication, and the rest. So the arithmetic family. Add for plus, sub for minus, mul for times, true div for the single slash, floor div for the double slash, mod for percent, pow for double star, and neg for the unary minus like negative x. Every one follows the same shape. Take other, do the math, and return a new object of your type. There are also 2 important variants worth knowing, rad, RADD, which handles the case where your object is on the right side of the operator, and IAD, which handles in-place addition, the plus equals operator. Now we shift shape a little. Some dunders only make sense for objects that contain other objects, like lists and decks or shopping carts. So we look at a cart class. It just holds a list of money objects. For something like this, we want len to work. We want square bracket indexing to work, and we want the in keyword to work. 3 dunders give us all of it. So first, len. We add double underscore len, and we simply return the length of the inner list. Now len of cart works and returns 2. Under the hood, len of cart is calling cart dot double underscore len. The only rule is that it has to return a non-negative integer. And as a bonus, an object that has len is automatically considered truthy when it's non-empty. Next, indexing. We add double underscore getitem, taking an index and returning that item from the inner list. Now cart of 0 gives us the first money. Under the hood, that is cart.getitem of 0. Now if getitem works with integer indexes, your object automatically becomes iterable. You can loop over it with the for loop for free without writing anything else. If you also want assignment, like cart of 0 equals something, you pair it with set item. Now the in keyword, we add double underscore contains, which checks whether item is in our inner list. So money of 5 in cart returns true. And notice why this works so cleanly. It relies on the EQ method we wrote earlier, because the in check compares by value. So even if you skip contains entirely, Python can fall back to looping through the object, but defining contains directly is clearer and faster. So you want to do that. But let's come back to the truthiness I was just talking about. We add double underscore bool, returning whether the cart has more than 0 items. So this decides what happens when you write if cart or while cart. Now an empty cart is falsy, and a full one is truthy. Here's the thing though, if you do not define bool, Python automatically uses len for this. 0 length is falsy, any other length is truthy. So you only need to define bool when empty and false are not the same thing for your particular object. And now the double underscore call. This lets you take an instance of a class and call it with parentheses as if it were a function. So if we take the sales tax class, for example, you create it with a rate 8%. Then you call the object itself, tax of 100, and it returns 108. The object behaves like a function, but it also carries state, the rate you configured. And that combination is powerful. It's how a lot of configurable functions and decorators are built. Anything that needs to remember something between calls. So if we put the whole map in one place, repr, repr backs the repr function, str backs print, eq backs equals equals, hash backs the hash function, lt backs less than, add backs plus, len backs the len function, getitem backs square bracket indexing, contains backs the in keyword, bool backs an if test, callbacks calling the object with parentheses, and init, the one you already knew, backs object creation. Operator on the left, the dunder Python runs on the right. So a few rules to carry with you. Define repr on almost every class you write, because the first time you have to debug, you'll be glad it's there. And if you define EQ, remember to handle hash also. Operators should return a new object rather than changing the original in place. Do not force a dunder where it does not belong. Adding two users together with a plus sign does not mean anything, so don't implement it. Lean on data class to generate init, repr, and EQ automatically, and use total ordering so you don't have to write out all 6 comparison methods by hand. So that's the magic. Dunder methods are what make your own objects feel built in. The same operators, the same functions, the same clean syntax that Python gives its own types. Now working on classes you write. So once you start seeing these, a huge amount of elegant Python code suddenly makes sense.